What would you do if two of the most powerful men on the planet wanted you dead? Not in some movie, not in some video game, in real life. One controls the largest economy ever built in human history. The other commands the most technologically advanced military in your entire region, and his fighter jets can reach your doorstep in under 2 hours. One wants to choke your country's economy until your own people turn against you. The other one doesn't even want to negotiate. He just wants to bomb you off the map. And you're sitting in a room in Tehran right now. You are the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the most powerful man in a country of 88 million people. Every general, every politician, every decision, it all comes back to you. Nothing moves without your word. Nothing. But here's the problem. Your economy is collapsing. Inflation has crossed 50%. Your people are angry. Women are protesting in the streets. Students are chanting against your government. Your currency has lost almost all its value. Families who were middle class 5 years ago are now struggling to afford bread. And the reason? Sanctions. American sanctions that have cut you off from the global financial system. You can't sell your oil freely. You can't do business with most of the world. Your banks are isolated. Your airlines can't buy spare parts. Your hospitals are running low on medicine. That's what Trump's pressure looks like. It doesn't come with explosions. It comes with slow, painful, invisible strangulation. Now on the other side, you've got Benjamin Netanyahu, and this man is a completely different kind of threat. He doesn't care about deals. He doesn't care about negotiations. He has made it his life's mission to make sure Iran never, and I mean never, gets a nuclear weapon. And he has the tools to back it up. Israeli F-35 stealth jets. The Mossad, arguably the most dangerous intelligence agency on the planet. Cyber weapons that have already sabotaged your nuclear facilities before. Remember Stuxnet? That was them. Netanyahu has bombed nuclear sites in Iraq. He's bombed them in Syria. And he has looked directly into the camera and said Iran is next. This is not a man who bluffs. When he says he will strike, history tells you, he will strike. So now, you understand your situation. Two enemies, two completely different threats. One is economic warfare, the other is military warfare. And here's the part that makes this almost impossible. You cannot fight both at the same time. You don't have the resources. You don't have the alliances. You don't have the bandwidth. If you focus on Trump, Netanyahu might hit you while you're distracted. If you focus on Netanyahu, Trump's sanctions will keep crushing your economy until there's nothing left to defend. You have to choose. You have to pick one phone call to make first, one enemy to deal with before the other. And that is exactly what we are going to figure out together in this video. I'm going to lay out both paths for you, step by step. What happens if you face Trump first? The strategy, the risks, the consequences. And what happens if you face Netanyahu first? The military calculations, the proxy wars, the everything. By the end of this video, you will see the full picture. Both sides, both outcomes. And then I'm going to tell you which path I would choose and why. But honestly, I want to hear your answer more than mine. Because the best strategy I receive in the comments, I will pin it at the top. So pay attention to every single detail in this video. Because by the end, you're going to have enough information to make a decision that could literally change the course of history. Let's get into it. Now, before we go any further, I need you to understand something very important. This is not just about picking the easier enemy. There is no easier enemy here. This is about strategy. This is about survival. This is about figuring out which threat, if left unchecked for even a few weeks, will destroy you faster. Because that's the one you deal with first. The other one, you contain, you manage, you buy time. But the first one, you go all in. So let's talk about Path A. You decide to face Trump first. You pick up that Washington phone, and before you even think about what to say, you need to understand something about Donald Trump that most people get completely wrong. Everyone thinks Trump is unpredictable. Everyone thinks he's chaotic. But he's not. Donald Trump is actually one of the most predictable leaders in the world. If you understand one thing about him, everything he does, every single move, every tweet, every threat, every deal, it all comes down to one word: winning. Trump doesn't care about ideology. He doesn't care about democracy in the Middle East. He doesn't care about human rights in Iran. He cares about standing in front of cameras and saying, I got the deal nobody else could get. I solved the problem Obama couldn't solve. I made the impossible happen. That's his currency. That's what drives him. And if you're smart enough, you can use that. So here's what you do. Step 1. You don't call Washington directly. You never call directly. That looks desperate. That gives Trump leverage before the conversation even starts. Instead, you open a back channel. You call the Sultan of Oman. You call the Emir of Qatar. These are countries that have relationships with both sides. You pass a quiet message through them. Iran is open to discussion. Not negotiation yet, not a deal yet. Just discussion. That word matters. Discussion means you're not committing to anything. You're not giving anything up. But it gives Trump something he desperately needs, a headline. Trump brings Iran to the table. That alone is a win for him. He can go on television and say nobody else could do this. I did it in my first few months. And you? You haven't given up a single thing yet. Not one centrifuge. Not 1 gram of uranium. Nothing. All you did was agree to talk. Step 2. Once the back channel is open, you send your foreign minister to a neutral location. Geneva, Muscat, Doha. Somewhere quiet, somewhere away from cameras. And in that room, you put a very specific offer on the table. You tell the Americans, we are willing to freeze our uranium enrichment at its current level. We will not go above 60%. We will allow limited inspections of specific facilities. In return, you lift the oil sanctions. Let us sell our oil again. Let our banks reconnect to the international system. Let our people breathe. Now here's why this works. You're not giving up your nuclear program. You're freezing it, temporarily. You keep everything you've built. You keep your centrifuges. You keep your scientists. You keep your knowledge. You just pause. And in exchange, you get the one thing your country desperately needs right now. Money, revenue, economic oxygen. Your currency stabilizes. Imports resume. Medicine flows into hospitals again. Your people, who were ready to overthrow you last month, suddenly feel relief. That's not just economics. That's survival. But here's where it gets really clever. Step 3. The moment, the absolute moment, that news leaks that Iran and the United States are in talks. Benjamin Netanyahu's entire strategy falls apart. Think about it. Netanyahu's plan depends on one thing: American support. Israel is powerful, yes. Their military is incredible, yes. But Israel cannot wage a full-scale war against Iran alone. They need American refueling planes for their jets to reach Iran. They need American intelligence. They need American diplomatic cover at the United Nations. They need America to say, yes, we support this strike. But how can America support a strike against a country it's currently negotiating with? It can't. The optics would be catastrophic. The world would turn against both America and Israel overnight. So by simply talking to Trump, just talking, you have put an invisible shield around your entire country. Netanyahu is sitting in Tel Aviv right now, furious, because he knows that as long as you and Trump are exchanging messages, his hands are completely tied. He can threaten all he wants. He can do all the military drills he wants, but he cannot pull that trigger. Not without American backing. And you just took that away from him without firing a single bullet. Step 4. While the world is focused on diplomacy, while CNN and BBC are running headlines about the Iran nuclear talks, while Netanyahu is arguing with his cabinet about what to do, you are quietly, silently doing something else entirely. You're moving your most critical nuclear equipment into facilities buried deep under mountains. You're upgrading your air defense systems. You're taking delivery of whatever Russia and China are willing to sell you. You're training your missile crews. You're strengthening Hezbollah's position in Lebanon. You're making sure that if these talks fail, if Trump walks away, if Netanyahu eventually gets his green light, you are in a far stronger position than you were before the talks started. That is the genius of Path A. You're not choosing peace. You're choosing the appearance of peace, while preparing for the possibility of war. Every day those talks continue, you get stronger. Every week that passes, your defenses improve. Every month that Netanyahu is forced to wait, your underground facilities go deeper. But, and this is a big but, Path A has serious risks. Your hardliners at home, the IRGC commanders, the revolutionary ideologues, they will hate this. They will call you a traitor. They will say you are surrendering to the great Satan. They will say Imam Khomeini did not build this revolution so that you could shake hands with the Americans. That pressure is real. That pressure has destroyed Iranian politicians before. And if Trump senses that you're weak domestically, if he smells blood, he won't give you a fair deal. He'll squeeze you for everything. He'll demand you dismantle your missile program. He'll demand you cut ties with Hezbollah. He'll demand you recognize Israel. And suddenly, the deal that was supposed to save you becomes the deal that strips you of everything that makes you powerful. That's the trap of Path A. It works beautifully, but only if you're strong enough to walk away from the table when the price gets too high. The question is, are you? Now let's flip the entire board. Forget Washington. Forget the sanctions. Forget Trump and his deals. Because there's a very strong argument, a very real, very logical argument, that none of that matters if Israeli jets are already in the air. And that's the core logic behind Path B. You pick up the military phone first. You face Netanyahu before you even think about Trump. And honestly, when you look at the raw facts, this path makes a lot of sense. Here's why. Sanctions are slow. Sanctions hurt, yes. Sanctions are painful, absolutely. But sanctions don't kill you overnight. Sanctions are like a disease. They weaken you month by month, year by year, but you can survive them. Iran has been under sanctions in some form for over 40 years. 40 years. And you're still here. Your government is still standing. Your military is still functioning. Your nuclear program is still advancing. Sanctions alone have never collapsed. The Islamic Republic. Not once. But you know what can end everything in a single night? 60 Israeli F-35 stealth jets crossing into your airspace at 2 a.m., dropping precision-guided munitions on your nuclear facilities at Natanz, at Fordo, at Isfahan, simultaneously, in one night. Everything you've built over 20 years, every centrifuge, every research facility, every piece of progress, gone. Reduced to rubble. And Netanyahu has done exactly this before. He did it to Iraq's Osirak reactor in 1981. He did it to Syria's Al-Kabar facility in 2007. Both times the world condemned him. Both times he said, I don't care, I did what I had to do. And both times, nothing happened to Israel. No consequences, no retaliation, nothing. So when Netanyahu looks at the camera and says Iran is next, you should be terrified. Because this man has a pattern. And that pattern says he will strike first and deal with the politics later. So if you're choosing Path B, the very first thing you do the moment you open your eyes as Supreme Leader is you call an emergency meeting with your top military commanders. The head of the IRGC, the head of the regular army, the head of the Air Defense Force, the commander of the Navy, and most importantly, the commander of your ballistic missile program. Everyone in one room. And you ask them one simple question. If Israel strikes in the next 48 hours, are we ready? And the honest answer, the real answer that nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone in that room knows, is no. Not completely. Your Air Force is outdated. Your fighter jets are from the 1970s, American F-14s that you've somehow kept alive with spare parts you manufactured yourself. Impressive? Yes. But enough to stop F-35s? Not even close. Your air defense systems have gaps. Your radar coverage has blind spots. If Israel comes with everything they have, your air defenses will shoot down some of their planes, maybe even a lot of them. But enough will get through. Enough will always get through. And that's all Netanyahu needs. So what do? You don't try to match Israel plane for plane, missile for missile. That's a game you will lose every single time. Instead, you play a completely different game. You pick up the phone and you start making calls. Not to Washington, not to the United Nations, not to anyone who's going to give you a strongly worded statement. You call Hassan Nasrallah's successor in Beirut. You call the Houthi commanders in Yemen. You call the militia leaders in Baghdad and Damascus. You call every single proxy force that Iran has spent the last 30 years building, funding, arming, and training. And you deliver one very simple message. Go to maximum alert. Right now. Today. Because this is exactly what these proxy forces were built for. This is their entire purpose. Not to fight Iran's wars, but to make sure Iran's wars never happen in the first place. Think about what this looks like from Netanyahu's perspective. Right now, he's probably sitting in his war room, looking at a map, planning strike routes into Iran. But suddenly his intelligence chief walks in and says, "Prime Minister, we have a problem. Hezbollah has moved 150,000 rockets to launch positions along our northern border. Houthi forces in Yemen are positioning anti-ship missiles aimed at the Red Sea, and commercial shipping companies are rerouting. Iranian-backed militias in Iraq are moving closer to American bases in the region. And IRGC naval forces have deployed fast attack boats across the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil supply flows every single day. 20%, 1/5 of the world's entire oil supply, and your boats are sitting right next to it. Now Netanyahu has a problem, a very big problem, because attacking Iran is not just about Iran anymore. If he strikes Tehran, Hezbollah launches 150,000 rockets into Tel Aviv, into Haifa, into every major Israeli city. His Iron Dome is good, but it's not designed to handle that volume. Thousands of rockets will get through. Israeli civilians will die. Israeli infrastructure will be destroyed. At the same time, Houthi missiles start hitting ships in the Red Sea. Global oil prices explode overnight. We're talking $200, maybe $300 a barrel. The entire global economy goes into shock. American voters see gas prices double in a week and they blame everyone involved, including Israel. And those Iraqi militias? They start hitting American bases. American soldiers start coming home in body bags. And suddenly Trump, who was maybe willing to support an Israeli strike, is on the phone screaming at Netanyahu saying, "What have you done? I told you not to do this. This is a disaster." That is the power of Path B. You haven't fired a single missile from Iranian soil. You haven't launched a single attack yourself. But you've created a situation where attacking you is so catastrophically expensive, so unbelievably risky, that no rational leader would do it. This is called deterrence. And Iran has spent 3 decades perfecting it. You don't need to be stronger than Israel. You just need to make sure that the cost of attacking you is higher than the benefit. And with proxies positioned in Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, that cost is astronomical. But you don't stop there. You need a diplomatic shield as well. So you make 2 more phone calls. First, you call Moscow. You tell Putin, "We need your help. We need S-400 air defense systems. We need them now. Not next year, not after a contract negotiation, now." And Putin, who loves anything that makes America and Israel uncomfortable, is more than happy to help. Because a stronger Iran means a weaker American position in the Middle East, and that's exactly what Russia wants. Second, you call Beijing. You tell Xi Jinping, "We need an economic lifeline. If sanctions get worse, we need you to keep buying our oil. Quietly, off the books, through back channels. We don't care how. Just keep the money flowing." And China, which is already buying Iranian oil despite American sanctions, agrees. Because China needs cheap oil, and Iran is selling it at a discount. It's a perfect arrangement for both sides. Now here's what you've built in the space of 24 hours. Your proxies are on high alert. Anyone who attacks you faces regional war. Russia is sending you advanced air defense systems. Your skies are getting harder to penetrate by the week. China is keeping your economy alive. Not thriving, but surviving. And you, the supreme leader, go on national television, and you deliver a very calm, very measured, very deliberate speech. You look directly into the camera and you say, "Iran is a peaceful nation. We do not seek war with anyone. But let me be absolutely clear. If any nation, any government, any force on this earth makes the mistake of attacking our sovereignty, our response will be immediate, it will be overwhelming, and it will be devastating. Every military base within 2,000 kilometers of our borders is within our missile range. Every city, every port, every oil facility. We do not bluff. We do not make empty threats. Test us, and you will see." That speech doesn't just talk to Netanyahu. That speech talks to Trump. That speech talks to Saudi Arabia, to the UAE, to every country in the region that has been quietly hoping someone else would take care of the Iran problem. You've just told all of them. The cost is too high. Don't even think about it. But now let's talk about the risks. Because Path B has serious, serious problems. The first problem is your economy. You just ignored Trump completely. You didn't open any diplomatic channel. You didn't offer any deal, which means sanctions aren't going anywhere. In fact, Trump might look at your military posturing and think this guy is dangerous. I need to squeeze him harder. More sanctions, tighter restrictions. Your economy, which was already dying, now gets worse. Much worse. Your people, who were already protesting, now have even more reason to be angry. You've strengthened your military position, but you've completely abandoned your economic one. And here's the harsh truth that every military leader in history has eventually learned. You can have the most powerful army in the world, but if your people are starving, if your economy has collapsed, if your currency is worthless, your military power means nothing, because your own people will tear your government apart from the inside before any external enemy ever gets the chance. The second problem is escalation. Deterrence only works if everyone stays rational. But what if Netanyahu isn't rational? What if he's facing corruption charges at home and he needs a war to distract his public? What if he decides that striking Iran is the only way to save his political career? What if one of your proxy commanders in Lebanon or Yemen makes a mistake, fires a rocket they weren't supposed to fire, hits a target they weren't supposed to hit, and suddenly Israel has the perfect excuse to retaliate? Deterrence is a game of nerves. And in a game of nerves, one wrong move, one miscalculation, one hothead on either side, and you're in a full-scale regional war that nobody wanted and nobody can control. And the third problem? The world. Right now, if you go full military posture, if you activate proxies, if you threaten to close the Strait of Hormuz, the world doesn't see you as a victim. The world sees you as the aggressor. Western media will run 24-hour coverage, showing Iranian missiles, Iranian proxies, Iranian threats. Nobody will talk about Israeli nuclear weapons. Nobody will talk about American sanctions. The narrative becomes Iran is the danger, Iran is the threat, Iran must be stopped. And that narrative gives Netanyahu and Trump exactly the justification. They need to come after you with everything they have, and the world will cheer them on while they do it. So that's path B, maximum strength, maximum deterrence, maximum risk. You've made yourself untouchable militarily, but you might have just signed your own death warrant economically and diplomatically. The fortress you've built is strong, but a fortress with no food, no money, and no friends is just a very expensive tomb. So now you've seen both paths. You've seen what happens when you pick up the Washington phone first. And you've seen what happens when you pick up the military phone first. Both paths have power. Both paths have logic. Both paths have consequences that could either save your country or destroy it entirely. And now, you have to choose. No more analysis. No more maybe this, maybe that. You're the supreme leader. 88 million people are counting on you. Your generals are waiting for orders. Your diplomats are waiting for instructions. The entire Middle East is holding its breath. So what do? Here's what I would do. And I want you to listen very carefully to my reasoning before you decide whether you agree or disagree, because I genuinely want to hear your answer in the comments. I'm picking up the Washington phone. I'm choosing path A. I'm facing Trump first. And here's exactly why. When you strip away all the emotion, all the pride, all the revolutionary ideology, all the chest beating, leadership comes down to one thing: buying time. That's it. Every great leader in history who faced impossible odds did the same thing. They bought time. They delayed the fight until the conditions were in their favor. They didn't fight the war their enemy wanted them to fight. They changed the game entirely and fought on their own terms, on their own timeline, in their own way. And that is exactly what Path A does. Think about it like this. Right now, as Supreme Leader, your two biggest problems are your economy and your security. Your economy is dying because of American sanctions. Your security is threatened because of Israeli aggression. Now, if you go Path B and face Netanyahu first, yes, you strengthen your military. Yes, you activate your proxies. Yes, you create deterrence. But your economy keeps bleeding. Every single day that passes without sanctions relief, your country gets weaker from the inside. Your people get hungrier. Your hospitals run out of medicine. Your factories shut down. Your engineers and scientists, the brilliant minds who built your nuclear program, who built your missile technology, they start leaving the country. They go to Canada, to Germany, to Australia, because they can't feed their families anymore. You're not just losing money. You're losing the people. who make your country powerful in the first place, and no amount of missiles can fix that. You can point 1,000 rockets at Tel Aviv, but if your economy collapses, if your society fractures, if your people revolt, those rockets don't matter. Because you won't be the one pressing the button. You'll be gone, replaced, overthrown, and whoever comes after you inherits the mess you left behind. But Path A stops the bleeding. The moment you engage Trump in talks, even preliminary talks, even back-channel whispers through Oman and Qatar, two things happen simultaneously. First, there's an immediate psychological effect on the markets. Oil traders see the headline, Iran open to talks, and they adjust. The pressure on your currency eases slightly. Foreign investors who were scared to touch Iran start paying attention again. China and India, who were buying your oil quietly, now feel more comfortable increasing their purchases because the political risk just went down. Your economy doesn't recover overnight. Nobody is saying that. But it stops falling. It stabilizes. And when you're drowning, stabilization is survival. You just need to keep your head above water long enough to figure out the rest. And second, and this is the part that makes Path A genuinely brilliant, the moment you're in talks with America, you have neutralized Israel without a single military move. I keep coming back to this point because it is the most important strategic insight in this entire video. Netanyahu cannot, physically, politically, diplomatically, cannot launch a major military strike against Iran while the United States is actively engaged in negotiations with Iran. The political fallout would be catastrophic for Israel. America would be humiliated on the world stage. The deal would collapse, and Israel would be blamed for destroying the best chance at peace in the Middle East in decades. No American president, not Trump, not anyone, would forgive that. Netanyahu knows this. His generals know this. His intelligence chiefs know this. And that knowledge alone is more powerful than any air defense system you could ever buy from Russia. You've grounded Israeli jets not with missiles, but with diplomacy. That is power. That is strategy. That is how you survive when you're outgunned and outspent. Now, does this mean Path A is perfect? Absolutely not. I told you the risks already. Your hardliners will hate you. The IRGC commanders will question your loyalty to the revolution. Trump might push too hard and demand too much. The deal might fall apart. All of that is real, but here's the difference. Those are problems you can manage. Those are internal political challenges that you can navigate with careful leadership, with smart appointments, with quiet reassurances to the right people at the right time. You know, what you can't manage? 60 F-35s dropping bombs on Natanz at 2 a.m. You can't negotiate with a bomb that's already falling. You can't politically maneuver your way out of a crater where your nuclear facility used to be. Path A gives you problems you can solve. Path B gives you problems that solve you. And here's the final piece. The part that nobody talks about. Path A and Path B are not actually mutually exclusive. That's the real secret. You can face Trump first and prepare for Netanyahu at the same time. While your diplomats are sitting in Geneva talking about uranium enrichment percentages, your military commanders can be quietly doing everything that Path B requires. Move the equipment underground. Upgrade the air defenses. Coordinate with Hezbollah. Stock up on missiles. Train your forces. All of that can happen in the background, away from cameras, away from headlines, while the world is focused on the diplomatic show. The talks are your shield. Your military preparation is your sword. You carry both. You show the shield to the world. You keep the sword behind your back. And if the day ever comes when diplomacy fails, when Trump walks away, when Netanyahu gets his green light, you pull out that sword, and you are 10 times more prepared than you would have been if you had started swinging it on day one. That is my answer. Face Trump first. Use diplomacy as a weapon. Buy time. Fix your economy. Neutralize Israel through American engagement. And prepare for war in the shadows while the world thinks you're pursuing peace. It's not the heroic answer. It's not the answer that gets crowds chanting in the streets. But it's the answer that keeps you alive. It's the answer that keeps your country intact. And in the end, survival is the only victory that matters. But that's just me. Now I want to hear from you. And I'm being completely serious about this. I will read every single comment on this video. What would you do? Would you face Trump first like I suggested? Would you go straight at Netanyahu with everything you have? Or maybe you have a completely different strategy that I didn't even think of. Maybe you'd call Putin first. Maybe you'd go straight to the United Nations. Maybe you'd do something so unexpected, so out of the box, that it changes the entire equation. Whatever it is, drop it in the comments right now. Make your case. Explain your reasoning. Because the most brilliant strategy, the one that genuinely makes me think, I'm pinning that comment at the top for everyone to see. This isn't just a video. This is a strategy session. And you're part of it. And one more thing before you go. This was day one. One single day as Iran's supreme leader. You faced Trump. You faced Netanyahu. You had to make impossible choices with no good options. And honestly, being the supreme leader of Iran might be one of the hardest jobs on the planet right now. But you know what's even harder? Being on the other side of this equation. Imagine, you're Benjamin Netanyahu. You just watched Iran open talks with America. Your biggest ally is now sitting across the table from your biggest enemy. Your window to strike is closing. Your military is ready, but your hands are tied. Your own people are divided. The world is watching. And Iran, the country you swore to stop, is getting stronger every single day, while you sit there and do nothing. What would you do? That's the next video. POV. You are Israel's prime minister. Iran just made a deal with Trump. Your nuclear window is closing. What do? Subscribe right now so you don't miss it. Hit the bell icon because YouTube doesn't always show you videos from channels you're subscribed to. The bell fixes that. And if this video made you think, if it challenged you, if it showed you something you hadn't considered before, share it with one person. Just one. Send it to a friend. Post it on your story. Drop it in a group chat. Because this kind of content that makes you think instead of just making you angry, this is what the internet needs more of. I'll see you in the next one.